lay on the ground and literally urinate on themselves. Watched them right on side of me. They were bladder infections, kidney infections, right? They couldn't use the restroom. Remember, we were holding up sheets for the women to use the restroom. I watched, I sat, the last day of when I was on there, they had a checkpoint that you couldn't cross, the military had, right? That's where they kept the little medical equipment that they had. That's where they kept it. They had a jail right there that they were putting people in that were causing problems, right? And I actually jumped across that. They drew the M16s on me, and I told them I said, when they drew the M16s on me, they told me to get back over the checkpoint. I said, there's no way. I said, I'm not going back in that crowd. I said, you're at a gunfight without a gun, all right? I said, y'all, as a matter of fact, and they didn't put their hands on me. I said, as a matter of fact, call y'all rank and arrest me right now and put me in the jail, because it's safe in the little jail y'all got. You're under, people are watching you right there. You're under supervision. I'd rather be in there than back in that crowd. I said, this is getting out of hand. This. Another thing was they were trained to tell you what you wanted to hear. We heard every day that we'd be out of there an hour, 2 hours. They were coming to get you, right? And that was more heat strokes happened where they had them lining up for the buses, which they lied, and they said the buses were coming probably the third day, and people, thousands, I'm talking thousands of people stood in this line waiting to get on these buses, and they were dropping. They were heat stroke. You talking 95 to 100 degree weather right there. You're in the middle of August and September is your hottest 2 months right here. But as far as another thing was, there was you had so many people gathered up in one area from different projects, and there were a lot of territorial things going on with the youngsters, right? Which is, I've never seen nothing like it in my life, all right? As far as
you mean like gang things?
Gang violence. Then it started getting racial for moments at a time, and they would have the military. After they shot that MP, the military turned on everybody. I don't blame them. They didn't know who to trust anymore. I met young people just came back from the Middle East, and I sat right there and talked to a few of them, where they said it was safer in the Middle East than it was there because we knew who our enemy were, right? They started drinking, they started getting intoxicated, and there were rumors that
who was drinking?
Everybody in there. They broke into the
military one?
No, not the military.
Just the
people in there.
You mean they broke into
the suites and they got all the alcohol, but after the third,
they didn't have much more than alcohol around then. In those places, they had no food.
No food. They had alcohol. They had looters coming in with anything and everything you could imagine. All right, they stole all the drugs out of the drugstore. That was one of the problems. They couldn't get drugs for the people that needed them. The medicine. All right, they could. I seen where people. It was so ruthless. I seen people wanting to sell shots of insulin for people having diabetic attacks. Stole from the drugstores, coming in there bringing insulin, which it wouldn't have been no good anyway because it wasn't on ice. Some of them had it on ice. Then they had some of them that didn't chill it. All right. And they were trying to sell shots of insulin to somebody dying from a diabetic attack for $20. Right? So they had everything you could imagine. They were coming in after they looted, like they evacuated with luggage. They'd come in with their luggage, and it would be full of stuff that they stole from the stores.
So at a certain point, there was no checkpoint anymore?
Once
everybody was just coming off the street,
coming and going. They were lifting people up over the edges, don't drop the sheets in the high water. All right, they were coming in. Now you could leave if you wanted to leave, and it'd say you couldn't come back in, but at that time they couldn't control it no more. They were coming in and out, and it got to the point where, like I said, I jumped across that checkpoint the last day, and I sat right there. I never moved. I watched a man.
And they didn't put you in a jail, and yet they didn't force you back out with the people.
The guy, I seen him look in my eye. I wasn't going back in it. They had to shoot me. I said, you can do what you want. I'm staying right here.
Yeah, he didn't want to do it.
And I asked the little girl I stayed with for a couple of days. I handed her over to the military. They had a section where a lot of missing children were. I kept her with me till after the gas coming in. Whatever they shot in there to get us out, I kept her with me. I brought her to them, and then I explained to her that she would be put on the buses first. When the buses arrived first, it was women and children. And I handed her over to them, and they put her on a bus to get her out of there.
And she was okay with that?
This little girl was tougher than anybody I ever met. She grew up. I walked over. somebody that was laying there dead, right? And she even asked me, she said, "You never seen a dead person before?" I said, "Not in this situation, not like this, no I haven't." She said, "I've seen them in the projects by my house in the cars before."
And she was born and raised in downtown New Orleans.
Very educated, a high IQ, extremely smart, streetwise and book-wise.
How did she say that she got separated from her mother?
She explained to me that her mother was on crack and was smoking crack in the Superdome. Her mother was smoked crack. That was another thing. I was asking her, I said, "You're not scared by yourself?" And she would tell me, my mom used to leave me by myself all the time in the projects. And there was definitely a lot of narcotics transactions going on. I went, one day a guy come up to me, in your upper levels, you had Superdome has a section of suites, and then they have the more expensive suites on top of that, which the military protected that at all times. You had a lot of snipers up there in those suites. The first set of suites, when you went down, a guy come up to me one night, I sat with him like one night, he's like, "You'll never see this again in your life." He said, "You need to come up here and see this." You got to understand one thing. I'm not prejudiced. I'm a Christian. I'm in a church. Right? I was in a ministry for 2 years. Parts of there you wasn't going to go. It was almost like in the city of New Orleans, being born and raised where I'm at on the West Bank, being from Plaquemines Parish, only reason people go into these sections of town is for drug transactions.
Yeah.
A guy, educated black man, said, "I'm going to bring you up there with me." And we were joking. He said, "I'm going to bring you on a $20 tour." He said, "You got to see this. It's unbelievable." And we went upstairs in the suites, and I watched them as they were kicking the doors down, stealing alcohol, smoking crack, shooting up heroin. I watched all this. That's one thing I can't understand. The military saw this too, and the military ignored it, and they walked right past it. I watched this with my own 2 eyes, because when you went up in the section where they first started looting in the suites, you actually walked past. It would have been so easy to stop that. They could have put MPs right there and stayed right there, and they could have never got up there. That's what I don't understand. They let them go up there, and they let them do that. All right? I watched. There was so much violence up there. It was unbelievable. I can't understand why they didn't stop that. And I went on this little tour, and I went up there, and it was like something off a movie, like Minister Society. You had to see it to believe it. I mean, I watched people in suites where they were having sex, right? And it wasn't rapes. They were voluntarily, right? You had to see it. As far as out on the ledge, them next 2 days, the last 2 days I spent, that was more critical in the dome, because now you had people dying of heat strokes. That was one of your big deals. Diabetic attacks, seizures. And I watched a lady right on the side of me, 2 feet away. The last day I was there, I watched a man right in front of me drop from a heat stroke. I watched the military pump 4 bags of fluids in him. Then an hour after that, I watched a lady have a seizure. When she had a seizure, once she died, she bit the guy's fingers. She was trying to keep it from swallowing her tongue, and her jaws locked on his fingers. That was 5 feet from me.